Morris Lowell Anderson. March 28th, 1931, on a farm near Frost, Minnesota. Went to movies on Saturday nights. Friday nights during high school was a thing called Norsky Nook that was in the upstairs of the community hall above the fire station. Dance, after football games and basketball games, and my parents weren't the most cooperative about going to dances. They thought they were kind of risque and sinful and could lead to all sorts of problems, but I managed to, it was typically boys on one side and girls on the other, but you got to do some dancing and listen to records. David Sowers, who was a cousin of Beverly's, had a birthday party there, and I kind of think Orland's were there at the time, and Orland may have taken me down to his Clarence Sowers' home, and this cousin of David's was there, along with some of his classmates, and that was actually the first time that I saw her. It was 8th grade, so how old are you when you're in 8th grade?
February 26, 1945.
Actually, I didn't ask for the first date either.
And there was a play at the KRNT Theater in Des Moines that I wanted to go to, and I had asked 3 girlfriends, my cousin David and Morris, if they would like to go to the theater. And my folks gave me permission to drive the car, so I picked up all the people, and we drove to Des Moines. And we got there early enough so we had dinner at a restaurant, and I don't remember very much about the restaurant except that it was the Butterfly Cafe, and it was not far from the KRNT Theater. We saw Showboat.
Oh.
And, right?
Right. And the fun part was that the 5 tickets weren't together, so in the balcony, David and I sat on one side of the balcony. And on the other side, or a significant distance away, was Beverly and Dolores West and
Marilyn Lund.
Marilyn Lund.
So was that an official date?
It was the very first time that we went any place together like that.
Okay.
And I did take him home.
Did you like him?
Yeah.
Did you like her?
Oh, yeah. I had asked her father for permission to marry his daughter
Before you asked,
before I asked Beverly.
and?
He said, he must have responded positively. I know he did.
It was more his mother that wasn't very thrilled about all this.
Easter morning.
April 9th, 1950.
That I proposed to her and gave her a ring, right?
We're sitting at the kitchen table in my folks' farmhouse, and I had made coffee, and we had Easter rolls, and so we were going to have a little bite to eat before we went to church, and we had to be at church in Ames at 6 o'clock, so we were actually driving to Ames.
Forgot about that.
And then and after church we came back to Story City, and we went to church in Story City with one of our families, and then we had Easter dinner at my parents' home that day.
That I'd like to mention 3 significant Christmases. One of them was at an early age when Arvin and I were, my older brothers for the most part were growing up and gone. Marvin was in college, Julian was working in Des Moines, Orland worked in the area and at home. And so one Christmas it was when we got a BB gun, and I don't know if I got it or we got it, Arvin and I together, but it was a significant gift because we were coming out of the Depression, and so this was a very special present. But it turned out to be a lot of fun and a lot of trouble. Arvid, or maybe both of us, shot some windows out and came out of the barn, and Dad Anderson certainly didn't appreciate that. I remember once Arvid and I played war games with it, and I didn't realize there was a BB in it, and I hit him in the forehead, and it drew blood, and it just scared the living daylights out of me and taught me a lesson I've never forgotten. Another very significant Christmas was when we had been in a service and came back from overseas and were working and living in Exira, and I was working for Des Moines Co-op Dairy, and it was the Christmas that Dad Anderson passed away. His funeral was on the 24th of December, and we would have come up from Exira with the three older of our children. David wasn't born yet, and stayed out on the farm. Went to the funeral, and then we went with your Beverly's folks to Wisconsin to Beverly's sister and family, and they had a dairy farm with lots of hills, and there was a lot of it was enough snow on the ground for great sledding, and we didn't have enough sleds for all the kids and adults, and Dick made toboggans out of corrugated roofing. The only problem was some of those things had nail holes in them, and that went through our jeans and long underwear into our bottoms, but we had a great time tobogganing on the hills in Wisconsin. There was a third Christmas, and that was probably the first year we were married, and we were out at the farm, and I became the official Santa Claus, and because there was extended family at your parents' home, and I disappeared and donned a Santa Claus suit. So
Were you Santa Claus for us kids?
I think so. I think that
So-
same year. I
The
think.
same year, I believe, I
Yeah.
appeared at your place. And, you know, one of the neat things for us over all these years, and not just Christmas, is that there are times in our lives when we're close enough together that we were like my older brothers in relationship to you and Connie and some of our other nieces and nephews. So it's been fun to see you, go from babes to grown adults. My favorite dessert, no ifs and ands or buts, pecan pie.
My name is Beverly Sue Sowers Anderson. I was born in Lafayette Township, Story County, Iowa, on a farm on July 17th, 1930. I lived on a farm in Boone County, Iowa at that time, and went to high school and to church in Story City. So Story City was still very much the place that we went to do our shopping, and we really did do a lot of shopping on Saturday nights. I did go to the movies. I worked doing farm work, and I had a regular income from that, from my parents. So I could go to the movies, and it cost us 15 cents. There were lots of westerns, occasionally mysteries, but a lot of westerns. I think that's why I'm not a real fan of westerns today. But we did spend time in town, but there are a couple other things about going to town on Saturday night that I really do remember. There was a band shell. It was a wooden platform with wheels under it, but Story City had a band, and in the summertime they gave concerts on Saturday night. My cousins and my aunt had worked at the feed store, which was next to the water tower, and they had a big feed store, seed store, and sometimes in the summertime particularly I would work there selling plants and stuff, but on Saturday nights we always congregated at their place. There was also a time when behind the Jacobson's drugstore they set up the merry-go-round in that area, and the merry-go-round would be playing. It was scary to me because sometimes to walk from Main Street to the seed store you had to go past the area behind the drugstore, and if the merry-go-round wasn't there it was really dark, and it was really kind of scary to walk down there by myself.
Is that because of the tavern across the street?
I think so. The first time we met really was at my cousin's birthday party, and it was on February 26th, 1945. and my aunt and I had made plans with David's mother to have a party of his friends, because our family was very close-knit, and we always had birthday parties that were all family. And I had always wanted to have a birthday party that was just my friends, and never did. And so we had this party, and Morris, and there were both boys and girls who were
From
invited.
that class.
From
Randall.
the Randall class invited, and I was there because I was had been working with the planning of the party, and so we did in fact meet then. But as Maury said, we didn't really begin to get acquainted with us until he was driving the hot lunch bus, and we started talking with each other and getting to know each other, just in a really friendly way, as we were driving back and forth from the school to the community hall. I think we had a number of conversations about whether or not we were going to get married for the months preceding, but I guess I would say that in fact his official asking me to marry him was when he gave me my engagement ring on Easter Sunday morning, which happened to be April 9th, 1950. That's a significant date to me, because when we celebrate, and the year we celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary, and we'd had a small open house in our home. On April 9th, 25 years later, I gave Maury a diamond. I guess I officially joined the family when Morris and I were married, although after we became engaged, I went to family dinners and family gatherings and that kind of thing, so that I felt a part of the family. Also, when we were in college, Morris and I spent a lot of time with Marvin and Marietta and the kids when they were little, and I occasionally babysat for Marvin's kids. Probably two, and one was when I was probably about 8 or 9, and I had wanted a bicycle very badly, and in those days we didn't get big presents like that very often. And we had Christmas with my mother's parents and my uncle on Christmas Eve, and then we opened our presents. And when we went in to open the presents, there was a bicycle by the tree, but the name tag on the handlebar was my grandfather's name, and the name on the name tag on the seat was mine. So I had to share my bicycle with my grandfather. And the other gift probably was when 2 years ago, I guess, when Maury gave me my emerald and diamond anniversary ring. Our first Christmas, we lived in a Quonset hut in Pama Court in Ames, and we didn't have any money, and but we got a spruce tree that was about 4 feet tall, I suppose. And we got it because it had cones on it, because we didn't have any decorations. And we bought one string of 7 lights, and we got a bargain on it because the box had gotten wet. And we got a box of bicycles, and that was the decorations on that tree. And that was the Christmas that we started the family tradition of baking Christmas tree breads, because we had a number of neighbors and people that we wanted to remember with gifts, and we, as I said, we didn't have very much money. And the Better Homes and Gardens for December 1951 came out with the recipes for Christmas breads. And we decided that we could make Christmas spreads and decorate them and give them to each of Maury's brothers' families, and to our parents, and to Grandpa and Grandma Anderson, and to our neighbors in Pamela Court. And we always delivered them on Christmas Eve, so that they had them either for Christmas Eve or for breakfast on Christmas morning. And that became, and I suppose that year we probably baked maybe 6, 7, 8 of them. That has been a tradition in our family, and now our children, at least 3 of them, bake Christmas breads. And I think at the peak of our giving Christmas breads, I made 36 Christmas. That's one. Another one that was really memorable to me was when we were in Germany, and there was more of my family in Germany than there was in the States, because my mother and father, brother and sister were back in the States. Maury and I and our 2 children and my brother-in-law, Dick Deaton, were in Germany.
So was Arvid.
And Arvid was there too. And Arvid and Dick came to our place for Christmas, so that we had a...
Your place was where?
Bitburg.
Air Force Base. Arvid was in Stuttgart, and Dick was in
Bad Kreuznach.
Bad Kreuznach.
And they came and spent Christmas, and we made Christmas beds and gave them to our military friends when we were in Bitburg. So that is not a tradition that gets put by the wayside. And that was a meaningful Christmas because we had family come and join us. It was a difficult Christmas because it was also, Susan had been born when Maury was overseas, and she was 3 months old the day we arrived in Germany. And she just didn't know her dad, and she did not, it took her a long time to make up with him. And it was tough that Christmas because he wanted very much to share it with her, and she was really not sure about who he was, even after that length of time. And I think my other favorite Christmas probably was a Christmas about 6 years ago, when for the first time in a long time, all 4 of our children and their children were home for Christmas at our farmhouse in Michigan. And it was always great fun to have Christmas in the farmhouse in Michigan, because it was a very old house and you could decorate it and do all kinds of neat things. And when we moved to the farmhouse, we planted some little baby trees that were under our spruce trees at the front of our property. And we had made a row of them close together, intending that we would cut them for Christmas trees. And that year we cut one of our own trees as a Christmas tree and brought it into the house. And after we started coming to Arizona, Liz and David went to the farm and cut their Christmas trees until we sold the place. Butterscotch cream pie.